Hey, welcome back to the channel. This is going to be another video in our Ford Bronco long-term build. I know it's been a lot longer than I expected, and I have some guys asking me some questions about it. You know, where are you at with it? What's going on? And so this is an update for that. Where we're at with it is we've got everything figured out. I know all my colors. I know I have like 95% of the parts. So it's just a matter of cutting and gluing and putting it together like any other model. You know, so to get this kicked off, I've decided I need to start with the interior because of the way this goes together, and I love the way this goes together. You got the interior panels and you've got the, you know, the back. So for me with this, I want to do it, I'm going to paint it red. And I don't know if I'm going to do the seats in this. Sorry, it's going to be red, and then the seats, it's going to be red on the body, red on the chassis, and then the seats are going to be a cream color, maybe a little darker, almost like they have them there. I really like how that looks. And then I don't know if I'm going to do the roll cage in a silver or a gray. I'm not 100% on that. I'm trying to mimic what my Ranger, what my Land Rover, my Discovery was. And I know it had, where it said Land Rover, it was a real dark gray on the hood, and I really like that. So I'm thinking of bringing that color in for the chassis. But anyway, that's a long way off. We got to just figure this out for now. So I'm going to paint all the interior here because this was all steel on the Broncos. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do that, and I'm just going to paint the floor just a matte black to mimic a rubber mat all the way across it. But first we got to get it set up, and we got to get it cut, and we got to move some stuff around to make it work because we have some small detail stuff to take care of. But I keep repeating myself about starting, so let's actually get started. So before I did anything, I test fitted everything to figure out what I was keeping and what I was throwing away. Okay, I don't want to put too much glue on there because I don't want that glued to the floor. And I don't want to glue to the floor for a couple of reasons. First one being, if I'm going to do anything with the floor, if I decide to do flocking, I don't want the sides on. And if I decide to change up some of the way I'm going to do the paint work, I don't want them glued in on that either. At least, even if I'm doing flocking on it, I want to be able to do the fender wells in the red. So that's where we're at with that. It's easy enough, just, you know, like any good modeling project, work slow, make sure it's doing what you want it to do. Okay, so I started with that because I'm cutting the door panels off of this, but I wanted to keep everything lined up while I could, because they got a little clip right there where it sticks through the bottom of it, and then one right there. So if you leave those, that'll line up perfectly. Now that's glued together. Now if I take that out and I cut it, I shouldn't have any problems with it. I should be able to just stick it right back in there and it should hold fine. And like I said, then I could paint that the red Or what I'll probably end up doing, honestly, is I'll probably end up gluing it to the back here and then doing all that stuff and then painting that whole back section of the body. But again, that's not for another day. Or that's not for today, it's for another day, sorry. So, okay. So now I'm going to come in and I'm going to add a little more glue to this. Just to make sure it's where I want it to be and it's nice and square. And okay. Now if you're doing any work like this, just be aware that it's kind of one step forward, two steps back kind of deal for a long time. And then you got to be careful because everything you do affects everything else you do. So you're always kind of bouncing around. So to kind of mitigate that on this kit, all I'm going to use is everything forward of the door. And I am not doing any body work. I am not changing up anything. I'm just going to use from here forward and I'm going to use from here backward. And about the only thing I'm going to change on this is I'm going to cut that straight down because I don't want any of the door section on this. Now, as far as the dimensions on the doors and how I'm going to do that to make the back passenger seat and stuff, I don't know yet. I have an idea, but I'm just not quite there yet. What I'm thinking about doing is I don't need that. I don't need that there. So I want to run the floor flat all the way across. And I'm not sure if that's going to involve me cutting that entire piece out or me just fixing, actually I'm going to cut that out. So I'm going to cut that entire piece out right there and then just glue another piece on top of this. And then what I'll do is I can then I can just add a flat piece to the back and then I can remimic this. You know, you can see that I can mimic that bracing under where the slice is, under where the cut will be, and then I can remimic that so it looks good. Actually, well, yeah, I would. I'd have to behind it a little bit, but anyway, you can see what I'm talking about. Yeah, and then it's going to run back, and then in the back where the passengers are just going to sit, they're going to have the 2 footwells too. So I'm probably going to end up only adding, yeah, 20, maybe 20 or so millimeters to it. Well, yeah, it's going to be a little bit longer than that. If I added 20 to it, it'd make it a 110-inch wheelbase, which would be the same as that, of what that rendering is. There's a lot of stuff I'm not sure on it yet. But anyway, that's what I'm talking about. You got to kind of figure this out as you go. But yeah, and then I could just run that to the back, and then just double that up. It'd be like cutting this off right here and just gluing it back on right there, right behind where the seats are at. So I think that's perfect. That's your seatbelt things, I think. So all those probably can be cut off. So anyway, there's just some stuff. The one thing I do want to do is I don't like how these seats mounts are working. So I'm definitely getting rid of those, because with the seats I bought, they just don't work. They seem like they sit way too high. Let me pull all this stuff apart. I mean, you can see just how few pieces I'm going to use. I mean, I have the hood, and that's That's going to be it as far as this goes, and then we got all the chrome stuff that's going back on it. But other than that, it's just going to be this. But yeah, I mean, you don't need seats that high. Yeah. So anyway, I'll just glue 2 pieces of small styrene on here, and then we're just going to lay them like right down there. You don't need to be sitting that high up. That's just nuts. So anyway, let's get started on that. Let me see. I don't know where I want to start on this at. Maybe I should run that further. No, I don't know. I know why they did that. Okay. Yeah, I'm just going to cut it off right here. So, we got to get that going. I think I'm going to start with... If I start with my big saw, I'm afraid it's going to be too jagged. If I do it with the small one, I'm afraid it's going to be too... I'm kind of stuck on what to do. Okay, so I think I'm just going to cut it. I'm just going to cut it with the small saw right now. And then later on, we're going to build a custom frame for this, so it'll turn out real nice. That's the only problem with these saws, is they only go so deep, and then that starts catching on stuff. I don't know why, but for some reason I'm cutting this thinking I'm doing this wrong. Yeah, it's fine though. Mostly because if you look at how it needs to be rebuilt, you know, it's easy enough. Just a couple of strips of styrene and yeah, I think it'll be fine. Okay. Let me do this real quick. When in doubt, get the big saw out. Oops. Sorry about that, shaking the hell out of that camera. I'm sorry. That actually looks pretty good. I'm super happy with that. Ah, there we go. Yeah, that looks good. That edge is a little jagged, but I don't care. Okay. Cool, man. Okay, so I'm trying to keep as much of the factory kit as I can. So that's my plan, and kind of has always been my plan. Probably cut that off right there. But I don't want to, because I don't want to have to mess with that floor. I'm going to cut it right back on this line here. Okay, so yeah, so we'll build this up and then we'll bring it back, and then we'll have the room for the 2 front seats. And then we'll do basically the same. And then we'll do basically the same floor. The same, that's about right. And we'll do basically the same floor. And then you'll have the back seats sitting right here. Yeah, I like that. I think that's going to look good. Okay, perfect. Then I just got to fix this. I just got to grind all that out, and then just add a patch panel there, and then come back in and just mimic these. Which I might actually do that a little different, I don't know. But anyway, so we got that. So let's figure out what we need here. Looks like that is 60 thousandths. So let me go grab some styrene and I'll get that made here in a second. All right, so I dug through all of my extra styrene and I found this big sheet of 40 thousandths, which looks like it is just perfect for what we're doing here. So, done and done. Now what I need to do is I need to make this little piece here. Okay, that's a little bit too tall, which is perfect for what I want to do. Okay. So we're just going to take, so I marked the same edge on here as I did on here. And then when I line that up to cut it, should just cut perfectly. Okay, and then just gotta square this up here. Okay. Yeah, there we go. And then just take this, clean up the edges. Okay. And then just line this up. Okay. And on this, you don't really need to go all the way through. You can just score it and then just crack it off like that. Yeah. Okay. Again. Okay. And then you're going to take your, measure that down there. And then put this on here. And yep, that's a little bit too tall. Which is fine, because we come back in and we'll hit it with the sanding stick again, and it'll knock it right down to where it needs to be. Okay, so there's that. That's rough. Like I said, all I'm going to do is come in and just sand it smooth with the stick. I'm not going to show you that. Geez, you don't need to see that. So what we're going to move on to is this section here. So we need to do the seats, and I'm just going to measure how far out this is. That seems to be fine. And if I remember right, it was 20 millimeters. Nope, it's only 16. Okay, perfect. So, how wide is that? Oh, look at that. That's like perfect. Cool. Okay, I'm going to add an extra millimeter to this. I think that's going to be way too short. Oh well. If it is, we can fix it. It's the beauty of doing these. Actually, that put it just about perfect. It's definitely good enough for where I want to be. Again, just hold that down. Be very careful. And just score that real nice. Okay. I'll make sure that's square, so I can tell you it's not. It is, it's fine. Okay, perfect. And man, it was like exactly the right width. Like I don't even need to sand on that thing. Ha, okay. So let's move this out of the road. And when you're doing this type of work, you can either take your time and finish it off real nice beforehand. You can come back in, you can finish it off afterwards. It's all on how you want to do it. Okay, I'm a little happier with that. Okay. Throw that in there. Glob a lot of glue on this thing. Okay, that's good. That's kind of got a... Oh! Actually, that's not going to give you the same measurement. I missed that. Let me sand that off of there real quick. There we go. Okay, so that's perfect. I'm liking that. Just come back in, make sure it's 90 degrees. And it is, and we're going to set that aside. Might want to put something under that for a minute. So now, of course, what we will do is we'll take the So, okay, so what I'm going to do is, and I'm probably not going to do this on camera, I'm just going to take, well, I don't know. So the back seats are going to go, they're going to go on like so. So yeah, so that gives us our, mounts for the front seats. You can see how good those look. And then basically I'm just going to do exactly the same thing off of these back here. And we're going to basically rebuild this whole structure here and push it back. And then I'm just going to cut this off, and I'm just going to cut that off right there and just re-stick this with 40 thousandths. So I don't have to mess with any of this. And then all that detail stuff, like you see how they did all this, I'm just going to mimic that on this piece under here. If that makes sense. I'll show that in the next episode. We've already done a half hour on this thing, so you can see where I'm heading with it. Like I said, it's just kind of one step forward, two steps back. Every time you change something, something else is going to have to change. Like obviously that's all going, so none of that interior stuff I glue together is going to fit anything anymore, so I can cut those door panels out, which is what I really should do. So on these, there's just that line there. You can just line up the old razor saw with that. And kind of the same thing as with the plastic, just score it and you can take it off of there. A little bit of that, cleaned it right up. So I'll do the same thing and then keep these for two reasons. One is they're pretty awesome. You could probably use that on something else if you wanted to, and then I want to keep the kick panels off of them. So just going to keep those. And actually, I'm going to see if I could do this way for the work better. Okay. Oh yeah, that worked a lot better. Instead of messing with that saw. Okay. And then, yeah, and then that's going to go up back in there. Like I said, when I paint the body, that's getting painted body color. So are the rear fenders, and then that's just going to be carpet. So, there we go. That's our start on her. You can see where I'm going with this. I'll come back in and cut these doors out. That'll be on the next episode. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it's not too tedious and boring. Unfortunately, it probably isn't going to get much better for a little while until we start really building stuff and putting it together. But we'll get there. We'll get there soon. And I'll see you on the next video. Thanks for watching.